there. Thank you so much again for joining me on this channel. As always, I'm very grateful for all your previous views, likes, subscriptions and shares. We're going to be looking at Bodhi Day, which is a major festival in the Buddhist calendar. Now, for those of you that have endured this channel before, you will know I've already done an origin story about Buddhism. And a very brief recap is that Siddhartha Gautama was a rich prince who had a wonderfully opulent lifestyle. He wasn't happy. He fled the palace looking for a life of meaning. He sat down under a tree and he reflected and meditated, and he then discovered, of course, the truth of life and how to achieve enlightenment. And Bodhi Day is a day of celebrating that particular event. So what's really fascinating is that in the Mahabodhi temple in northern India, you can actually go to the site where the Buddha achieved enlightenment, and you can actually see not the original tree, but a cutting from the original tree, which has taken root and grown. And what's even more fascinating is that this is not the only one. There are numerous cuttings around the world that have established themselves so that tree can grow. And each of these places has become a sacred place of pilgrimage. So when is Bodhi Day actually celebrated? Well, first of all, we need to know that the word Bodhi means awakened. And that's where we get the word Buddha from. Okay, awake to the reality and of the truth. Now, as always with religion, things aren't always straightforward. And as we know, it can be gloriously complex. So let's start off with looking at Zen Buddhism. And Zen Buddhism is in Japan, and they celebrate Bodhi Day in a particular way. First of all, it's called Rohatsu, and it means the 8th day of the 12th month. And it shifted the festival because rather than relying on lunar months, what Japanese Buddhists decided to do was to fix it when the Gregorian calendar was adopted in the 19th century. And that's really interesting because rather than having that fluid idea of when to celebrate it, it became a fixed point in time. So straightforward? Well, not so much, because other Buddhists celebrate it at different times. If you're a Theravada Buddhist, you will celebrate it as part of the whole festival of one known as Vesak. If you're a Mahayana Buddhist, then you'll actually split it into 3 separate events. Now, I appreciate I'll need to do another video at some point on the different types of Buddhism. But what I wanted to share with you is how Buddhism is not just one block. It is lots of different groups who will take the teachings of the Buddha and interpret it in their own particular ways. And actually, that's something that you can be thinking about in your own studies. Just reflect and investigate how this one religion has become so widespread, and different groups, different cultures have put their own spin on it. I mean, who'd have thought that when Buddhism started that it would be all the way in Japan and would be adopted in such a way as to be using the Western calendar? So there we are. Just think about some of the different traditions. Now, an important way of marking Bodhi Day, and one of the main activities, is meditation. And there's a wonderful trick where you can bring up how a word is formed and actually how it came into being. And the word meditation comes from the Latin meditare, which means to measure or to contemplate. And that's all meditation is, when you sit and reflect and you chew things over and you play it over in your mind. And that is a significant part of Bodhi Day, where obviously followers are replicating what the Buddha did in terms of sitting and reflecting and meditating. So have a think about this. Isn't it interesting how there are so many meditation apps around now? It's linked in with well-being, and I think we're all much more wiser and smarter now about looking after our mental health. Well, there are tons of apps out there, and not all of them are associated with religion. And have a little think about, why do you think they are so popular? Meditation isn't just something that happens in the Buddhist faith. It's not just something that happens in Zen Buddhism or Theravada Buddhism. It happens in many other religions too. So it might be in Judaism, where you're looking at a piece of the Tanakh and you're reflecting upon it. It might be in Christianity, where a Christian is reflecting on some of the teachings of Jesus in, say, the Beatitudes. But you do not have to be religious to meditate. It's a word that belongs to everybody and an action that belongs to everybody. So maybe you want to look at some of those apps, or maybe just want to do look around there on the internet and just find out a bit more about meditation. For me, I would even argue that sitting still and reading a book and being absorbed in a story is a form of meditation. So, how is it marked? Another way it's marked, Bodhi Day, is from December the 8th. A candle is lit. And think about that imagery of light, how light banishes darkness, and the light of wisdom and the light of teaching. But the really cool bit is this, and I didn't realize this till I was putting this together, which is that in many Buddhist households, a Bodhi tree is decorated. Now, the Bodhi tree is part of a fig tree and is part of the Fiscus family. Apologies to any botanists if I've mispronounced that. And the tree will be covered in brightly coloured lights. Does that sound familiar? A tree decorated round about December time, brightly coloured lights. I think that is absolutely fascinating, and that's something that you may want to investigate further, how two entirely different religions have come up with the same tradition and the same festivals and the same rituals. So, as always, thank you so much for watching. I'm very grateful for all your previous views, likes, subscriptions and shares. And as always, enjoy your learning.